When we think in basic terms, all organisms have to do a few things. They have to protect themselves, find or make food, and reproduce. We don't typically think of plants in those terms, but they still have to do that stuff just like animals do. And it happens to be pollen season. So a lot of our oaks and pines and hickories are reproducing right now. There's also a lot of things blooming with beautiful flowers that rely on pollinators. So there's sort of two main strategies that plants rely on to reproduce. In the case of this pine tree or an oak tree, the cones or the flowers are very inconspicuous. They're not showy, they're not smelly, they're not beautiful, they're not offering a nectar reward. So these plants are relying on wind to accomplish the pollination for them. So these are the male cones. They're producing a ton of pollen right now. So it's sort of hedging bets. If you're relying on wind to carry the pollen, make lots and lots of it. That's why everything is covered in a yellow sheet right now from all this pollen that the plants are producing. And you notice on pine trees in particular, the male cones tend to be down low, where the female cones are up high in the tree. So this is sort of a way to prevent self-pollination, so allowing more diversity so that pollination is happening from this tree to another tree. So the wind can pick up and carry the very light, fine grains of pollen up and away to another tree. So now let's go look at plants that rely on pollinators. Now this is a plant that is relying on pollinators to reproduce. You see it has beautiful showy flowers. They have really sweet smell that's attractive to the pollinators. They produce nectar, which is a reward. So when the pollinator visits the flower, what they're doing is they're coming to get nectar out of the base. But in the process, they happen to bump along the stamens, which are producing the pollen. And then usually when they go visit another flower, then they might bump up against the pistil, which then becomes pollinated. And that allows this flower to produce seeds, which is the plant's next generation. And so the plants that are relying on pollinators, the pollen that they produce is usually much larger. It's not going to be carried easily by the wind, and it's not something that we're going to breathe in and have trouble with all the allergies that we're getting this time of year. So it's those wind pollinated plants that are causing our allergies to go haywire. Whereas the plants that are producing these beautiful flowers, the only way they achieve pollination is with the symbiotic relation of an insect pollinator.